The cocks crow red, we're on page 5. The cocks crow red, the red cocks crow. A hair divides high note from no. Man hair, girl hair, united know the magic of electric flow.
Well, that's blatant. On with the next one.
Yes. Although I don't think we can just pass right over the man hair, girl hair thing, because
Oh, it's such good poetry, right?
he could never get away with that if he were writing it now. You know, it's like, I now pronounce you man and wife.
Mm-hmm. Via hair strands, right? You're tied together by your hair strands. Well, that's very Japanese, to be tied together by their hair strands. You knew a lot about all that.
So what do you think, Elizabeth?
I think it's as Rainey said. That's not common.
All right, on we go then. The wind sighs round tall modcon huts. A door opens and smiles and shuts. Foreign fingers in thighs score ruts. The dawn peeps over trays of butts.
I think it's trays of cigarette butts.
Yeah.
Yes, certainly.
House of prostitution to me.
Yeah.
What about modcon? Anybody know that word?
Well,
Modern conditions. Modcon is modern conditions. Modcon flats are little 50s flats, modern conditions. The wind sighs round tall, modern conditioned huts.
Well, actually, I looked it up. It said modern convenience, which
No,
is
it's modern. Well, in Australia, it's modern conditions. When you live, when it's about a house, it's modcon. It's modern conditions.
okay.
A door opens and smiles and shuts. Foreign fingers in thighs score ruts. That's an interesting line.
And I remember back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s,
Yeah, this is very 50s.
you know, there were trays of cigarette butts all over the place, you know,
Right.
like next to the elevator, you know, just everywhere.
Mhm.
Smoking was a given back in those days.
Right.
So what is this door that opens and smiles and shuts? What's that about?
Letting one man in after another in the promiscuous 50s and 60s, I guess.
So you're taking, somebody said they thought this was a house of prostitution. Oh, that's because of the foreign fingers and thighs scoring ruts, huh?
Maybe, yeah.
Is that how whoever suggested that got that?
Maybe. I just think it's just anybody letting anyone in the front door for some favor or another. They just become so accustomed to promiscuity.
Well, that's interesting. I would never have gotten that out of it either, but could be. All right. I was going to have Elizabeth read this, but she's wandered off. Nightmare refreshed, we rise from bed, tighten the loose screws in our head. Breakfast on sawdust and liquid lead instead of fresh, plain fashioned bread.
The whole synthetic store-bought food, you know.
Yeah, but not just the food, the whole.
Yeah, the whole
thing.
synthetic reality, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing he's portraying here or picturing is a sort of a long nightmare.
Yeah. Oh, tall huts. Yeah, in condominiums and flats, and we call them flats, apartments, whatever, you know, a synthetic world of accommodation where anyone can come in the door and they don't have to be connected to family. They can even be foreign, whatever. And then you wake up with the hangover the next morning to more synthetic food and no mum cooking the bread in the wood stove oven.
All right, the news headlines. Sorry, Eugene, was that you?
Yes, it was. I thought a little extreme though. Breakfast on sawdust and was it molten lead?
Liquid lead.
Liquid lead. Yeah. I mean, come on, Francis. People were drinking coffee. Maybe it wasn't freshly roasted beans, but we've always been drinking coffee. And well, I guess it used to remember instant coffee. We
Yeah,
used to
instant
drink
coffee
that.
and tea. We didn't have tea bags then, but we had instant tea, coffee. But it would be instead of tea made on the billy and the fresh made bread in the wood, he's contrasting this so-called progress and white sliced bread is nothing but sawdust and like liquid lead. Oh God, I made up a new couplet. Sorry, Francis. I have poetic Tourette's. Anyway, so it's just an extreme contrast. He's going somewhere with this extreme contrast.
And that was really the era of that stuff. It was
Yeah.
certainly in the US and presumably in Australia as well.
Absolutely.
It was the era when people were so enamored of technology
Yeah.
that they even let it go into all the food, and so it became
Yeah.
Twinkies and white bread and highly refined everything. And
Sliced hot bread and rotisserie chickens. I remember.
stuff made in test tubes, and everybody thought it was all great, except for Francis.
And he's criticizing it while it's happening, remember, when everyone else thinks it's great, except the Bohemians did not.
Right.
You have to remember this is a Bohemian writing.
Right.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay, on with the headlines in the newspaper.
The news headlines run: Kingdom come for the poor, the always with you dumb. New expressway plows through slum. Man dies through drinking office gum.
Yeah.
So let's start with office gum. What is it?
I have no idea. I suppose he's comparing gum, which in the old days chewing gum was rubber, real rubber. The instant coffee in the office is so bad that this guy dies drinking it. And the expressways were definitely happening in the 50s and 60s. That's how the Italian and Greek migrants were let in so easily because they were masters of concrete. That was happening. Kingdom come for the poor
Oops.
is social, is socialized medicines, free schooling, everything, lunches in school, free for kids, all of that being held up as a flag of victory for the masses. But the masses were being fed white sliced bread and junk.
All right. Eugene, anytime you want to speak, I mean, you can jump in if you can find a thing, but if you know how to raise your hand electronically, I'll pay attention and I'll make sure you get your chance.
Oh, thanks a lot, Greg. Yeah, I'll just butt in because we don't have the electronic option on cell phone. I mean, on phones. Yeah. I'll just jump in.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'd just like to go back to the chat where Ralph says, thinking about the prisoner on the former page, rather than focused on her breast, he's then busting rocks and being imprisoned. And prisoners are so unhappy they start using foul language. That's a great interpretation too.
Yeah.
Okay, gold, girls, gold, girls at man's two-timing cuts through his refrigerator guts with oxytorch. Oh, this is a headline. Oh, good for her. A girl so gold at a bloke's two-timing, she cuts through his fat guts, his refrigerator guts with an oxytorch. Pleads, he drove me nuts, adding, he always pulled his putts.
Yeah, so apparently her objection to him was not necessarily that he was beating her up. She just didn't.
He two-timed her and beat up someone else.
Yeah, and he pulled his putts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have to feel that Frances is saying she wasn't necessarily justified. It was another just kind of, well, I think I'll just off this guy.
Yeah.
What does pulled his putts mean?
Well, a putt in golfing is when you kind of hold back, but you really whack it to get it in the hole, right?
Now, pulling your putt it's a particular kind of motion where the putt ends up to the right of the hole, usually because the person lifts his head during the swing and looks where he's trying to hit the ball. And so it's just a common little trivial golfing error. But you see, she's just got the violence.
Ralph said he didn't pay the rent either. You know, he was a withholder as well as an aggressor.
Where
Was
did it-
Francis a golfer?
No.
By the way, I missed a bunch because somehow I got on safe driving mode and I don't know how I got there and had to leave and come back. So I missed a few minutes. So-
This is the headlines. It's pretty straightforward. So we're down now to the girl who murders her husband because he two-timed her, not because he was nasty. And then Ralph also said he always pulled his putts. He probably also did not pay the rent regularly.
Wait. How do you know she killed him?
Because she says so.
She cuts
Is
through
that
his
what Paul
refrigerator.
did?
She cuts through his refrigerator guts with an oxy torch.
And she pleads to the judge, he drove me nuts. And then she added, he always pulled his putts.
Well, refrigerator guts, I thought that's the refrigerator.
No, it's his stomach, full of her food.
And what's oxytorch?
Wow, Rainey, you're making so many assumptions.
An oxytorch is an oxytorch to cut through lead and iron.
It's like a welding
I know all
thing.
this stuff. I mean, I don't get any of that. I guess I just don't know it at all to even make a comment.
Come on now, you know about the working class and oxytorches, for goodness sake. We do use these things, you know.
Actually, I didn't know about an oxytorch.
I guess
Sorry, but
because I'm a
I
gemologist.
did.
He always
You didn't
pulled-
have any brothers who were welders.
Yeah. He
Right.
always pulled his putts, is interesting. So Ralph is saying that not only did she kill him, she killed him with his own tool, a butane.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's the most interesting thing that's been said so far.
Go, Ralph.
Well, I'm going to go on record as objecting a little bit to there have been a lot of assumptions made about this paragraph.
Okay, will you clarify it for us?
So
Us
one
poor
assumption
working
was
class people.
that this person was her husband. It doesn't say that. Another assumption is that he totally deserved what she gave him, which I don't like from the get-go. And number two, this statement about he always pulled his putts, to me, is a clear indication that she was not acting out of pure righteousness.
Uh-huh.
But I don't get pulled his putts. What's a putts?
Well, I presume he's her man because he's two-timing her, Greg. He wouldn't be two-timing her if he wasn't her man.
Yeah, I don't dispute
Thank you.
that, but it doesn't
Thank
say he's her husband.
Well, in those days, if you weren't really naughty, you had to be married to even have an intimate relationship.
Well, we're only two stanzas out of the proposed brothels, so.
I know, it's true.
So
Really being
I
naughty.
thought pulled his putts had to do with something he was doing.
It's a thing that you do in golfing, Elizabeth. And for example, if the woman and this guy played golf together, maybe they were a team, maybe they played as a team against another couple.
It's symbolic. They didn't
And
play
she
golf.
would get irritated that he would make what she considered a stupid error in his putting.
Right.
I thought it meant he
course, though,
pulled his
because
something
working
else.
class couldn't go to the golf course.
Just one at a time, please. Elizabeth, go ahead.
I thought it meant he was pulling some part of his anatomy.
No, I don't think so.
It's symbolic, of course. They wouldn't have been playing golf. You could only play golf if you were um, upper class and have money to join the golf club. It's symbolic.
Well, how do you know that they couldn't have been that?
Well, I can't imagine the upper class, having an oxy welder to start with, and least of all knowing how to use it and then cutting him in half. But then,
Anyway, this is
I'm
awful.
working class.
Yeah,
Stop.
anyway.
I
Anyway,
don't really like
This is a horrible newspaper. It's probably the Argus, and it was the newspaper that spelled out all the details that the working class wanted to hear about. A diplomat says that, are we done with that?
yeah, let's go.
A diplomat says that rival ghouls, a diplomat says that rival ghouls patch the pitch his cunning cruels. Wife, mistress, both or either, sools him on to pinch the crown jewels.
So patch the pitch. What's that?
Patch the pitch?
Yeah.
His cunning cruels. Patch the pitch. It must be rounders or softball, right? Patch the pitch.
Or it could be cricket. Oh no, it could be football, English football, because
No, we have Australian
they
rules.
call the field the pitch in English football.
No, we don't. We have Australian rules. Pitch patch means messy, a messy event in the Australian dictionary.
So what does patch the pitch mean?
I have no idea. Pitch versus patch.
I don't like this. I'm just leaving.
I mean, the only thing I was making out of it was
Urban
something like pitch in the sense of like asphalt and patching a road, patching an asphalt road, but I didn't know what that indicated.
What is Sool? S-O-O-L. Sool's him.
Sort of goads him onto it.
Six him on, stools him on. But pitch patch is often used in school theatre. It's going to be a huge pitch patch. So to pitch the patch, I don't know. I actually don't know the term. Jono went to a better private school than I. He might know. But she sues him on in the end because they haven't got enough money to steal the crown jewels.
So I was just saying, a diplomat says that rival crime lords, I don't know, pitch the patch, whatever that means, his cunning cruel. So the cruelty of the diplomat or the cruelty of the rival ghouls, or what, I mean, and encourage him to pinch, I don't know, take the crown jewels,
The wife,
property of England,
no.
or
The upper class person that rivals girls pitch the patch and is cunning cruels. Now the wife thinks the only way they can survive is to start stealing.
Can we, I was going without any kind of hand raising and so forth since we were a small group, but it's kind of driving me crazy because we've got a lot of interrupting and talking over, and it's a little hard to, I feel like it's hard for people to sort of take a moment to be thoughtful. So if you would indulge me. So Elizabeth had a question about the patch the pitch his cunning cruel. She had the question of who's cunning. So Elizabeth, I take that as the diplomat. Diplomat says ... that his cunning cruels. I don't know what it means, but I think that's sort of how the sentence parses. So what were your other questions about that, Elizabeth?
I'm just having a hard time with that. I think it's because I don't know anything about Australian speech that much.
Well, we're all having a hard time with it. So just don't worry about that. Just try to be specific about what your questions are.
It sounds to me like a diplomat is saying that these rival crime lords, and then it doesn't make sense because the cruels would not apply to the ghouls because it's singular, his cunning cruels.
Right.
So it sounds like the diplomat is cunningly cruel or has done cruel things.
Yes, they
And-
did.
And then rival ghouls patch the pitch. I mean, what does that mean? Rival crime bosses
No,
What is
no.
patch the pitch.
The diplomat belongs to the political parties. The diplomat belongs to the ruling class of Australia. So the diplomat is rivaling the other diplomats with his cruel cunning.
But he's also complaining about these rival ghouls, saying that they patch the pitch, that his cunning cruels, whatever that means.
Right.
But Elizabeth, none of us really know what it means.
So it seems to me we need someone. Well, Rainey should know because she lived in Australia and she's Australian.
Yes, but you see, I'm from the class he's complaining for, not the diplomatic upper class, which was the predominantly ruling class of Australia until the 50s.
In any event, we can't expect anyone to know what all of this stuff is, and if we know it, we know it, and if we don't, we don't. So
Okay.
we can just identify that that's one thing that we don't know. The word Sewells definitely means, in fact, I looked it up. Let's see. It means, let me find the page where I'm.
You said encourages or goads
Incite.
somebody onward.
Sewell means incite to attack. So, she goads him on to commit this crime.
You would not know this much about the lower classes.
All right, on to new restaurants. Go ahead, Rainey.
I do realize that Bunny's right. He's talking about the cricket pitch there. After the match, you patch the pitch. So after the rivalry match, you patch the pitch.
And what does that mean?
The pitch is damaged by people running back and forth along it, and it's repaired after the game. So they're just rivals, patching the pitch constantly with new cunning cruels to trick the poor masses.
I think I get it now.
Yeah.
I think based on what Rainey just said, that these rival bosses in Australia settle their differences but they're also trying to outdo or fight against the cunning cruelties that they've seen from the upper classes.
No, they are the upper classes.
Pardon?
The diplomats and the politicians are all upper class.
But the rival ghouls are making amends so they can fight the upper class, is what I got from based on what you just said a few minutes ago.
No, the cunning cruels, they're just getting ready for more cunning cruels and the way to trick them out.
The ghouls must be his peers, I think, Elizabeth, because they're his rivals. They wouldn't be his rivals if they weren't from his peer group.
Right.
But what confuses me is that he seems to be saying if patch the pitch has the meaning that Rainey just explained, then it sounds like the ghouls are cleaning up after his mess, the diplomat's mess. So why is he complaining about it, or is he complaining about it?
Because he's the opposition. Oh, so he cleaned up this and they all have to be vaxxed. Well, he cleaned up that and they shouldn't have been vaxxed. They're always oppositional. But who suffers while they're on upper class and on our taxes and our salary? The masses, the poor suffer. So in the end, what does the wife have to do while they're fooling around, competing with each other politically? She has to encourage her husband to become a thief or her boyfriend.
So let's let Elizabeth, I think she was trying to speak. Were you, Elizabeth?
No, but I actually have to leave. So I'm going to sign off and let you figure this out.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, bye, Elizabeth.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak to this stanza before we move on?
No, it's perfectly clear. New restaurant serves kids from schools to savor with contract renewals. bones, hair, and nails are used in gruels. Astronauts eat only solid fuels. That's about waste, it's about, it's obvious.
All right, well, so what I take is the restaurant is probably mostly interested in the money they get from the contract.
Yeah,
They're producing substandard food and they're throwing bones here and nails in it.
yeah,
And the astronauts eat only solid fuels is just another reference to the sort of high-tech desiccated society.
exactly what happened last week. Exactly what's still happening with Bezos
Right.
and the penniless, and all the starving children could have been fed, but they're still off and away in their highfalutin wealthy world.
All right. Hey, Ralph, you want to read a stanza? I didn't mean Ralph, I meant Eugene, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg. I don't have the text in front of me.
Oh, right, on the screen, okay, all right.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have your screen share. So,
No problem.
yeah, once you get into that other poem that is downloadable, then I can read and comment, yeah, more.
Yeah, okay. So the Harbor Trust extends the mole so ships can quietly rock and roll. Old generals march out on parole while taxis honk and fire bells toll. So I looked up mole because I didn't know what he was talking about. And mole is a divider, for example, of stone between two sections of a body of water. So the Harbor Trust must be some civic body or political body that has charge over the harbor. And so they've made some a modification of the harbor so that ships can quietly rock and roll, although I'm not sure what the comment is exactly. The old generals marching out on parole. Okay, so they're generals, so they were in a high position in the army, but now they're on parole, so they've been convicted of something and thrown in jail. And now they're out back in the public thing again. He makes reference a couple of other places about people coming from minor disgraces to occupy the highest places and so forth. So it kind of picks up that theme. And
I think they're retired, and they're getting their dole handed out to them, a meager pension. They're retired.
right. And taxis honking and fire bells toll, I guess, is just the general cacophonous atmosphere that we're operating in.
Yeah. Bull that's in the paper.
All right, go ahead and do the last headline, Rainey.
The leader claims parliamentary guesses have spiraled prices of women's dresses and slowed down trains that were expresses and fed the fires of youth's excesses. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so what do you make of it?
Just it is what it is.
But what is it?
What the leader just says, whatever he says, and we've got to try and guess what the hell he really means and who he's having a shot at or whatever, and argufying in Parliament, and because they're argufying like that, textile industry suffers, women's dresses get more expensive, and the trains aren't what they used to be, and the youth is flourishing and the elderly are crumbling, something like that. I don't know.
So what I take of it is that the leader, who is probably of opposition party to the party in control of the parliament, and so he's blaming them for all the problems.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure they do the same.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well then we're ready to press on. So why don't you continue reading for a couple pages, Rainey?
Okay. Oh, we're into two-way stretch, so we're getting towards the end of the 50s here. Then corseted in two-way stretch, in trousers honed to razor edge, by bus, train, car, the city reach, to join Harry once more to the breach. By the way, I'm putting all this into context from the actual physical look of this poem. You know, if you read John and Jeff Gunter's and other people's opinion, all this refers to the Kali Yuga and much deeper meanings by the time Francis wrote this.
I'm not sure I understood the comment because it took a different turn in your last sentence.
Yeah, it came to mind because of John's comments behind the scenes on this poem and John Isaacs Young. And, you know, in all of their meetings about it and carryings on over the last 50 years, I'm giving the physical context of the time here, but some of these people that have studied this in more depth have gone into the undertone here of the Kali Yuga, what constitutes patient rats, tired cement, solid, heavy, apparent, tangible forms, gross world, concrete thinking, hard enduring, the seeming permanence of our built environment, our fixed ideas, our enduring civilization, but a billion grey rats and subterranean human underclasses are gnawing away at the foundations. The night song of the dreadful night is this world, the Kali Yuga, and the end of this cycle, and it's a divine nightmare. There's a lot of underfelt symbology to some people that read this Dreams of Wet Pavements.
Yeah, well, I would think so. Francis being as aware as he was of Kali Yuga and its meaning and knowing that we were there. So go ahead.
Then corseted in two-way stretch, in trousers, where are we? Then corseted in two-way stretch, in trousers honed to razor edge, by bus, train, car, the city reach, to join Harry once more to the breach. Made in walls of financial freeze to release a fresh economic breeze. And the typists on electric keys may make reports on nylon knees. The lift takes up a berry-boned clown clutching democracy's new crown. Of smiling days without a frown, the ex-president rides it down. The new head mouths he will now decline, mouths for his tongue he gave to spline the wheels of the production line. Aggression's nouns through history's line. He mouths and farts most wondrously, and all agree, what oratory! At last we grasp that liberty is the true object or shall be.
Of shall be. Okay, so let's stop because it's we've got 15 minutes and that's 5 or 6 stanzas, so that's probably all we've got time for.
Right.
So let's go back to okay, so then corseted in two-way stretch, in trousers home to razor edge, by bus, train, car, the city reach, to join Harry once more to the breach. So I think when I was reading this outside the meeting, so there's this the six stanzas of headlines that are stuck in the middle. But before we got into those, he was saying, nightmare refreshed, we rise from bed. And so I think he's picking that up so that it is we then who he's talking about who are corseted in two-way stretch in trousers honed to razor edge. Does that seem reasonable to you, Rainey?
Yeah, he just interjected with reading the paper and then life goes back to the same as it was in the former section.
So here we are, corseted in two-way stretch and trousers with a great crease. And by bus, train, car, the city reach, that's us, to join Harry once more to the breach. So Harry, I guess I'm taking as Tom, Dick, and Harry, anybody.
Yeah.
And
Hey guys,
yeah,
I think that is referencing Shakespeare's Henry V, who that's one of his lines in the play. He says, through the breach, you know, when they're attacking the French.
ah,
Huh.
yeah. So Harry is Henry. Huh?
Like, yeah, Harry is Henry, is what occurs to me.
Uh-huh. That's good.
Yeah, great. Good catch.
Whew. I noticed.
How that fits in,
Yeah.
I have no idea though.
Well, there's not a full stop. We'll find out. I also noticed here where we're going into, shooting ahead in time somewhat, because we've now got two-way stretch and we've got, you know, razor edge creases in your trousers, and you've got a bus system, a train system, and before he was building the freeway, remember? So let's see what Harry does at the breach on the next page.
And we're joining Harry in going into some kind of battle.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Oh, yes, the financial freeze battle, the stock market or something.
Made in walls of financial freeze to release a fresh economic breeze, and that typists on electric keys may make reports on nylon knees.
Yeah, we've definitely gone into the future a bit there with the electric typewriter and stockings and made of nylon and the stock market
And a financial freeze would be, well, I guess they tighten up the money supply
maybe, yeah.
so that people can't get loans, but somehow this is going to release a fresh economic breeze. And on with the modern typist. The lift takes up a beribboned clown, clutching democracy's new crown of smiling days without a frown. The ex-president rides it down. So I guess we've got a succession of clowns decked out in festive congratulations on your victory wear. And smiling days without a frown, so we always have to pretend like things are great.
Yeah, this is the prime minister of my choice. It's interesting he uses president throughout this and not prime minister. It's written for America, yeah.
Interesting. The new head mouths, he will now decline. Mouths for his tongue he gave to spline the wheels of the production line. Aggression's nouns through history's line. So the new head, the new prime minister / president, mouths that he will now decline aggression's nouns through history's line. So does that mean he says that he's talking peace, that he's not going to pursue aggressive foreign policy?
I don't know about that.
So he's just saying the words, whatever it is. He will
Yeah.
now decline aggression's nouns through history's line. And he can only mouth, he can't really speak the truth because he gave his speech away to spline the wheels. A spline is a kind of connector between gears. So he's basically given himself up to economic progress, and he'll do whatever is in the service of that.
Right.
He mouths and farts most wondrously, and all agree, what oratory! At last, we grasp that liberty is the true object of shall be. Now, I don't understand that last couplet at all.
I think it's being facetious.
Well, how? Of what?
Well, he's saying that this is the true liberty, to be financially free. You know, this is this is the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Whereas France is saying that, you know, he's a mouth farter and This is the furthest thing from the truth, although it sounds sophisticated and freeing.
What is this shall be business about? The true object
That
of
shall be, that which shall be. This is the truth of that which shall be. At last we're hypnotized, so to speak. We grasp that all liberty is the true object of shall be, that which shall be.
Oh. Well, I don't get it. Eugene, have you got anything?
No, I just think a reminder that's sort of a non sequitur, but a reminder that Francis was actually English, right? He was born in London.
He came to Australia before he remembered. He came when he was 6, so he was Australian.
Oh, is that so? Oh, okay. That
Lived there all his life.
didn't show up in the Wikipedia
Yeah, and
article.
his father was a socialist.
Oh no, it did. Pardon me. It says he moved to Australia when he was still a boy. Okay, thanks.
All right, so I'll have to let that one lie. He does make some references throughout here to Big Fist sort of trying to get everybody's focus on the future, what they're hoping for in the future.
Yeah.
And that being mostly in kind of economic or mundane terms. So
a carrot for a better life, the way they see a better life.
May tie into that a bit.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask people what Kali Yuga meant to them. My understanding is it's like the nadir of spirituality, people just being interested in the physical, physicality, physical, almost Epicureanism. Am I off the mark?
Well, I don't think so. I think of it that way. I think of the Kali Yuga as there's this thing of cycles, which are large. I don't know how long a cycle is supposed to be, but it's a very large chunk of time that the avatar and the perfect masters sort of measure events in and so on. And the Kali Yuga, I think Baba did say that this current time we were in was the end of a cycle of cycles. So in other words, it's a really important culmination of a very long process. And the Kali Yuga is the age where, yeah, as you say, worldliness and lust and greed, all of the things associated with enslavement to the senses kind of come to the fore. They max out. They come to the surface, and things are in a horrid mess. But this is, I also understand it as an era that precedes a great transformation into an entirely different kind of a period where truth and true values hold sway. What do you think, Rainey?
Well, it just gets worse and worse, put it that way. and this book is, if one wants to put that as an underneath meaning, that's where Dreams of Wet Pavements go. Ralph also has in the chat that he too thinks sarcasm is here, and that we, the people, are blindly accepting the nastiness of the upper class and the diplomats and the politicians, so to say.
Well, we want to be those nasty politicians, upper class, rich.
Yes.
Everybody aspires to that, at least in America.
Yes, the working class did aspire to that, but there was an ordinariness to them that the upper class underestimated as a team. And that ordinariness led to common sense and logic and all sorts of sophisticated things that they didn't see coming. So here he's making this statement about the leaders and the so-called enticers. Big Fist and his henchmen, he calls them. Will I read on, Greg?
Well, actually, it's 5:26. So perhaps we should stop.
Stop recording anyway.
Okay.
Well, lovely to hear you people.
Yes,
As I rock in my hammock.
very nice to have you aboard with this, Eugene. I enjoyed your contributions, and I hope you'll come back. We have a couple of other
Definitely.
people. We have at least a couple of other people who I were here last week who I know are out of pocket this week. So I hope they'll come back. And